ourselves, our fellow Christians, for a lot of it, because we have the power. We're the majority. These little groups that are causing all the trouble, compared to of the Christians and the people that believe in God and the Jews that go to synagogues, we're in the majority. But what do? We let our little indifferences affect us. If we don't, there's one thing we don't like about a candidate, we just say we're not going to vote for them. We've got to unite. And as we've said many times, there's no such thing as a perfect candidate. But that's, we don't talk, the Christian faith and the Jewish faith combined take up about 75% of the population, and that's where the power is if we'd only use it. And stand up, and I don't care. I'm going to tell people what I believe in. And yes, I'm going to do just like you do. I got 7 guns in my house, and I'll protect it. And that, by the way, just a side note, that's why it's in the Constitution you can bear arms. It's not a go hunting or any other thing. It's to protect us against the government.
That's right.
So, but I don't want to be too hard on, and I'm one of them. But we've got to stick together as Christians and Jewish people that believe in God, and not let these minority groups, because they could understand power, and even the newspapers understand power. And power means us sticking together in our view. Anyway, that's basically the main thing that gets under my skin. And as far as religion, it's just unbelievable that I'm lucky to live in South Carolina, where they still, in most of the schools, they still have prayer. But we grew up where, and our founding fathers, that's what they expected our country to be like. And if we stick together, we God-fearing people stick together and ask for guidance, we'll overcome this. I have faith we will.
I'm hoping so. When the Presbyterian Church just came out this week and said that they won't support Israel, I think, oh my gosh, there are Bible-believing Christians in that Presbyterian Church, and for them to come out and the leadership to say that makes me cringe.
It does. Me too.
Don't you think so? What about you, Mary?
Oh, yeah, and see, that's not the only thing the Presbyterian Church came out with this week. You know, they are now supporting gay marriage, and we're seeing that. We're seeing that is in the church is where a lot of this is starting.
Right.
And that is just horrendous. And again, religious freedom, it's not only, I've been watching Indiana, Teresa, believe me, because Arkansas is right there waiting to see if Governor Hutchinson is going to sign the same thing.
Last I heard, he said he was not going to sign it.
That's what he said this morning, yes.
Because his son signed a petition against it.
Yes. And I'm not even going to tell you what I think of that.
I'm probably right there with you. Who's running the show?
Yes. And, so many people believe that separation of church and state is in the Constitution. And you want to whack them over the head with a copy of it. Because it's not in there. If it was like in the 50s, and I don't remember the gentleman's name, but he said, I can tell 10 people that it's in the Constitution, and within 10 years, I will have a majority believing that. And you see what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You see, because this nation was founded on Christian principles. They can't get away from that. They've turned it around. They've rewritten history. If you look at some of the school books that Mona was talking about earlier, our schools, they've rewritten history. I was working in a school district, and I went in, and I was almost jumping up and down saying, I just read part of my son's book, and this is wrong. This is wrong. So they put me on a board to read the books before they bought them.
Good for you.
And when you're rewriting history, how can you expect people to know what the truth is?
And they won't go look for it.
No, heavens no. It's the lockstep behind the leaders that they think are so wonderful that they just say, oh, they said that, it must be true.
Right. Or they wrote it down, it has to be true.
Exactly. Or it's on the internet, so we know it's true.
Yeah.
Right. But then we can go back to Mr. Gore inventing the internet, but that's beyond this subject.
Yeah. Right. Okay, Mona, weigh in.
Well, first of all, people need to just calm down about this whole thing. I was in Arizona when Arizona came out with that immigration, tightening down on the law. The law already existed, and it was a federal law. They were just tightening down on it. And I remember all the protests against it and how many, they weren't ever going back to Arizona for ball games. They were never having a convention for their... Well, that was 2010, and all that is gone. This is just another instance of a Ferguson-type thing where these people that are communists are coming in and they're stirring up all this trouble using a good reason for it. Years ago, when Reynolds Tobacco was under attack, I'm not supporting smoking. I'm not saying smoking is good for you or anything, but Reynolds Tobacco came under attack, and they were trying to actually shut down this company because they were a tobacco producer. And I said then, this is not based on tobacco. This is an effort to take over for the government to be able to say you can do this and you can do that. It was one of the beginnings of where the government started choosing for us what companies could be utilized and could stay as they were. Of course, Reynolds Tobacco was damaged quite a bit. There was another instance where cyclamates were very, very popular, and because they tasted so much like sugar. The sugar industry came out, and they changed and said that the cyclamates were precancerous, and they destroyed that whole industry. This kind of thing is what happens, is that whenever something comes up, the government exceeds power by allowing somebody to come in and make the decision whether or not this is a good or a bad thing. Governor Cuomo here in New York has banned all official travel to Indiana, but because of the homosexual thing. But Governor Cuomo is getting ready to go, I think it's April 20th, to Cuba. And he's going down there. Now, Cuba imprisons and executes homosexuals. They actually work them so hard that they die. It's okay to pay for that trip, but it's not okay to go to Indiana where somebody is just saying it's okay for you to have religious beliefs and for you to uphold your religious beliefs. The other part is that these people are dangerous that come out against these in these movements. I mean, there's a movement now that's been going around the social networks. Let's all go to Indiana and burn down that pizza place. I mean, you know.
Yeah, that coach went to jail or got suspended for it.
Well, and rightfully so. It should have been put in jail. Should have been put in jail. But this is the kind of thing, is that when you start these movements, there was back in the 1930s or the 40s, there was a very obscure little union movie that was made, and it was called Whispers. And it was about what Mary was talking about. You can start whispering about somebody, and then that whisper starts growing, and that whisper gets louder until that whisper becomes truth. And that's what happens in this country. We start these little whispers, and all of a sudden they're truth. I will take the devil's advocate on this, because I think that in our nation, because it's such an unusual nation, we have to walk a very thin line when we open up businesses. Because when you're opening up a business for the public, you have to make a decision whether or not you're going to serve the public. And the public encompasses a lot of things that perhaps you do not personally or religiously support. You have to make a decision. I would suggest that if you're going to open up a business, you open it up so that it's very unattractive to whomever it is that you want to exclude, such as, you know, and I'm not being a smart aleck about gays, because I really do love gays as humans and my fellow Americans and everything. But gay men are talented. They're actors, and they're innovative, and they're designers, and they can come up with just all kinds of beautiful type things. I think I would open up a business that was so ugly they wouldn't want to come in there.
Like what?
I don't know, just ugly decor. I mean, I'm being facetious, but this is what I'm talking about. If you're going into a business and you're going to have a pizza parlor, and that pizza parlor is going to be open, to everybody, then you're going to have to make that decision that this is going to be open for everybody, or else you're going to have to really look at what you're doing. We can't exclude in our country. We can't choose a religion, even though we're Christians in our country, and the majority is Christians. We as Christians cannot exclude. It's just like I grew up in a fundamentalist background of where Jews were hated because they killed Christ. I mean, I actually hated because they killed Christ. So these were Christians that hated Jews. I really kind of think some of this needs to be really carefully thought out by a person opening up a business. And some of it, I think, is justified in the fact that we have the protection to believe and to say we believe and to follow our beliefs. It's a hard road to hoe. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what I got to say.
Well, I'll just, I know what you're saying, Mona, but I believe that a person can open up a business, and if they only want to serve blue-eyed blondes, that they have the right to do it, because they're not standing out there with a pistol. That's freedom and they won't succeed, of course, because they're excluding so many people. But we don't need so many laws about this sort of thing. And as far as excluding people, I can understand why someone that believes in the Bible, and from Genesis to Revelation, marriage is between a man and a woman. And if you're a Christian and you believe that, then that's what it is, as far as a Christian is concerned. In the same way with, the Bible says in the Jewish laws that you can't even touch the dead carcass of a pig. Well, if you open up a restaurant and you decide, well, I'm not going to serve pork, and you're a Jew, they have every right not to do it, and I think you need that freedom. And as far as, you can't discriminate against people out of business, but in business you should be able to do, if you stay within the laws, and have your own rules of who you want. And like Mary said, there's signs up there, we reserve the right to refuse serving anyone. And there's boundaries, that, for instance, you wouldn't want anybody using foul language and yelling and screaming and upsetting the rest of the customers. There's so many things that you have the right to kick people out of your restaurant for. And this guy, anyway, I've said enough.
Well, I want to give you my little input on this religious freedom. Here, this is Psalm 140, 1-3. O Lord, rescue me from evil people. Preserve me from those who are violent, those who plot evil in their hearts and stir up trouble all day long. Their tongues sting like a snake. Their poison of a viper drips from their lips. And that's exactly how I feel about what's going on in this country regarding everything, not just our religious freedom, but everything. The poison is dripping from the lips of those who want to destroy our way of life. And we're going to take a break. So you sit back and enjoy this song. It's been a while since we've heard it, I'm sure. So you hang on and listen to this. You're going to like it.
All right, I got